What are we talking about? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show brought to you by Sports Empire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that over there is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
Doing great. We're getting that much closer to those conference championships.
We got conference championship games happening this weekend. But Mo, let's start here today. There is a new head coach in the NFL. He is a Michigan man. He is also, and some people didn't realize this, he is a Chargers man. He was a backup quarterback for the San Diego Chargers, now the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is making his way to the Chargers for 2024 and beyond. We kind of felt it was coming when the second interview with the Falcons was canceled. First, there was questions to whether it was going to happen. Then it was happening. Then it wasn't happening. Then it was postponed. And then he signed with the Chargers. Mo, I will give LA credit. They went out and they got their man. I think this was the most logical situation for Jim Harbaugh. I think this is the situation where he is going to find the most success out of the gate. He has the quarterback. He has the pieces on defense. He has some nice weapons and playmakers on the offensive side. Now, whether or not they can stay healthy, that is a completely different issue. But he has things in place, and Mo, he has the most important thing in place, which is the franchise quarterback.
And most coaches, they're hamstrung because they don't have the franchise quarterback, or in a guy like Mike Tomlin's case, you're trying to replace a franchise quarterback. So, right, whatever Justin Herbert's ceiling is, I think that Jim Harbaugh will pull that out of him. Whatever the best version of Justin Herbert is, he will get that. Jim Harbaugh will push him to bring that out of him. So they already have the quarterback in place. We're waiting for the mugs, marry the quarterback to the coach. So we're waiting. That's coming, but it's a real thing. What I want to follow up on what you said about they have the pieces in place. They do. But I think he does have some tough decisions to make along the way. They do have some cap issues. They're going to have to shed some salaries at some point. And I think that knowing Jim Harbaugh, if he believes I've got the right quarterback already, he might go out and pursue younger, quicker wide receivers in later rounds. Jim Harbaugh is the kind of coach, he can get a fourth or fifth rounder and make the guy into a starter, make the guy into a contributor, make the guy into a locker room guy, a culture guy. So some of the more familiar names going forward, I would question how much longer some of those on the offensive side are going to be on the roster going forward.
And this does a couple of things, Mo. The first thing that it does is if you are still at Michigan, if you are a Michigan fan, if you are the next coach of Michigan, you hope that the removal of Harbaugh from that program softens whatever is about to come down on them. They are going to receive some sort of punishment from the NCAA. There is going to be some sort of a backlash from everything that this program has been going through en route to their national championship. And the hope all along was twofold. One, we want to get that natty, and then we need to get Harbaugh out of here. And that happened. And then two, if Harbaugh is gone, hopefully they don't drop the hammer like they would have if he was still here. Now that still remains to be seen, but the hope is that the program is not now crippled in the wake of winning their national title and then losing Jim Harbaugh.
Agreed.
But Mo, obviously, we won't know that for weeks to come. That's the college side of it. The NFL side of it is now we're going to see some other coaching dominoes fall. I would have to assume, Mo, the first domino we're going to see is the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta had two people in mind. It was Harbaugh and it was Belichick. Harbaugh is now with the Chargers. Mo, you would have to assume we're going to hear very soon that Bill Belichick is the next coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I would believe that. I think that's something that will probably get done, if not today, over the weekend at the latest, right? It's going to come through. This is just about in what capacity Bill Belichick will be with Atlanta, right? Most people believe that he'll be just the coach, not in the dual roles that he's had the past 20 years or so as a GM and a coach. I have to believe the Falcons are going to push fast on this because they don't want to snooze and lose out on him as well. There are other coaching jobs open, although I mean, yeah, I knowing Bill Belichick, there's challenges and then there's challenges. So I'm just saying, Atlanta's a bet your best bet going forward. And I don't want to call out any franchises. I'm just putting it out there.
Washington is still looking for a head coach. Carolina, Seattle, Atlanta, and there's somebody that I'm missing out there because I know there's 5 opportunities still out there.
Seattle's not a bad job.
Seattle's not a bad job,
and I don't think Washington is either.
So let's assume that Bill Belichick goes to Atlanta. Who then becomes the hottest coaching option out there? Is it Mike Vrabel? Is it Dan Quinn? Is it Mike McDonald from the Ravens? Who do you think has the most pull once Belichick finds his landing spot and where we think it's going to be in Atlanta?
I think a lot of people might be looking at a guy like Wink Martindale. Even though I know we harp on that it is a league that is geared towards more offensive-minded coaches. Look, you can be a defensive-minded coach as long as you surround yourself with the people who are stronger in other areas. So be a defensive-minded coach, but hire an excellent offensive coordinator and let him do his thing. You're the leader of the team. You're the overseer, but give the offensive coordinator free reign to implement his system. So I think that's a possibility.
Mo, it's funny because there's times when you do this where you just come across people who clearly don't watch football. So as a Dolphin fan, I was inundated with comments yesterday about Vic Fangio and the Miami Dolphins choosing to part ways. And the first wave of comments was clearly people who saw a headline and did not read the story. And then the second wave of comments was people who were somehow trying to connect more dots than there were to connect. Mo, this is not an indictment of either of the two parties involved. This is not an indictment of Vic Fangio and what he did as a defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins last season, nor is this an indictment of the Miami Dolphins franchise and where they stand coming off of what many fans would consider to be a disappointing end to a promising season. This is simply a situation where all sides, for the most part, kind of benefited here. Vic Fangio wanted to be with the Philadelphia Eagles last season. That opportunity was not available. He did not want to be there as a special assistant. He wanted to be there as a defensive coordinator, and that role was simply not available. As a result, Miami paid him a lot of money to come down to Miami, and his family did not come with him. His family remained up there in the Pennsylvania area, and he was consistently traveling this past season between Florida and Pennsylvania to spend time with his family. Well, fast forward a year, and now, Mo, you're seeing a situation where the defensive coordinator position is now available in Philadelphia, a job that he initially wanted last season had it been available. So that's side A. And then side B is a situation where if you're in Miami And again, no one in Miami, no reports are coming out that they weren't happy with him. No reports are coming out that they wanted him gone. Had this Philly job not opened up, I very much think he would have been the defensive coordinator in Miami again. But what you're looking at now is the simple conversation of, we liked Vic, but we wish there was a little more collaboration. And if you watched the Miami Dolphins play this season, like I did, I will tell you right now, Vic Fangio is a Vic Fangio guy. He runs his system, Mo, and he doesn't change his system truly based on what you have happening on the defensive side of the football. And what I mean by that, for example, the Dolphins were absolutely ravaged by injuries on the defensive side in their secondary, specifically the last handful of games of the season. Did Jalen Ramsey start trailing the best receiver on the other side of the ball? No. Why not, Mo? Because Vic Fangio's defenses don't do that. And I think what you saw in Miami various times this season, and we really got to see a little bit of this because we saw a little bit of it on Hard Knocks, is we saw Coach McDaniel try to suggest some things to the defense, and it almost fell on deaf ears. And again, that doesn't mean that Vic's not good at what he does. It doesn't mean that Vic didn't have success in Miami. But I think at the end of the day, it's kind of a square peg in somewhat of a round hole. And instead of keeping somebody for their namesake, which again, I fully believe, if the Philly job wasn't available, he would still be here next season. That's all. And it would have been, and I think Miami would have had a good defense next season. But I think that he fits better in Philly. I think you're going to see a better result with him in Philly. I think Philly has a better defense than Miami regardless anyways. And I think that ultimately that's where he wanted to be as a coach. So it works out for everyone. Miami gets a chance to bring in someone that can maybe work more catered with the pieces that they have. They get a chance to say thank you to Vic for what he did for a year, and they're leaving on good terms. And Vic gets to go be closer to his family, Mo, with a job that he wanted last year, but it wasn't available. Anyways, every now and again, Mo, things just work out kind of okay for everyone. Now, obviously, if Miami hires a defensive coordinator and they're absolutely garbage, I might feel a little differently about this move, come October or November of next year. But at that same time, you trust the process. You trust that the leaders of your franchise can bring in quality assistant coaches, and you move on, you keep things going. So for me, Mo, it is a story, obviously, because he is a talented coordinator, but it's not quite the story or not quite the narrative that I feel others are trying to make it into this morning.
I just think that, as you laid out, it is a mutual agreement to part ways. There's no animus. I don't feel or hear any stories about drama. It's literally like, thank you, but you're going this way. We're parting ways, and we wish you well, right? And you know what I mean? I mean, that's what I get out of it. I think sometimes people want to make something out of nothing, a non-story. They want to make it into a story. This is not a dramatic thing. This certainly isn't the Russell Wilson, Sean Payton kind of drama like that. And Vic Fangio is a very good defensive coordinator. His resume speaks for itself. Like you said, maybe Philly's better set up for him. His heart was there to begin with. So I think that you're going to actually get a better role, a better season out of him, because he's going to be where he wants to be, right? Also closer to his family. So look, kudos to the Dolphins and Vic Fangio for parting ways very professionally, very friendly.
Gene says the Dolphins are interested in the combo of Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. What are my thoughts? Gene, maybe you didn't hear this. I heard that the Panthers are actually going to hire the combo of Sean Desai and Matt Patricia to run all three operations: head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator all at the same time. It's going to be a really revolutionary thing that they're going to be doing in Carolina with the Panthers, with this brain trust from the Eagles that found so much success. Let's not forget, Matt Patricia did some crazy things in New England as well. He has experience on both sides of the football. So I heard they're going to go to Carolina, and we're all going to be wishing we had them come next season. Gene, we're waiting for the mugs. We're waiting for the mugs. We want the mugs over here, sir. Mo, let's talk a little WWE stuff, shall we? News came out yesterday that CM Punk and Cody Rhodes are not going to win the Royal Rumble, that they are in fact possibly going to be facing each other at WrestleMania, which brings up a ton of interesting comments because, well, they were the two favorites to win the Rumble going into it. So question number one, if it's not them, then who? And Seth Rollins was slated pretty much in most people's minds to be facing CM Punk for the title at WrestleMania, whether it be because CM Punk won the Royal Rumble or not. But if he's facing Cody, obviously that won't happen either. So Mo, the hot rumor days before the Royal Rumble is that Gunther is not only going to win the Royal Rumble as the IC champion, but he is going to be challenging Seth Rollins at WrestleMania for the World Heavyweight Championship, which again, that is the third option that WWE has set up. They have had interactions between him and Seth Rollins recently. WWE is doing a great job of setting up these different options. So there are legitimately three favorites storyline-wise going into the Rumble to win the Rumble, which again is just great storytelling by WWE as opposed to years past where you basically knew who was going to win it because there really weren't any other options. There are three legitimate paths WWE could take. I think the Cody path is the least likely since The Rock is all but confirmed to be facing Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. But Mo, do you like Gunther winning the Rumble and facing Seth Rollins?
I think it makes for an interesting change of pace, and Gunther's a hell of a performer. Look, their promo wasn't as good as Cody's and Punk's, but that's a high bar. That's a high bar. That had a lot more sizzle to it. But do I think that a match between Seth Rollins and Gunther would be great? Yes, I do. I think it'll be a great match. And I think that it might set up other things. Should Gunther defeat Seth Rollins, does he give up the belt? Does he give up his other belt and maybe give it up before he could possibly lose it, right? He won't lose it. He'll just vacate it. And then that makes for another tournament, right? If he vacates the belt. So I really do think the creative minds in WWE right now, they're on fire right now. Triple H and company, they're giving you a lot of options, a lot of storylines, and great promotions. And like you said, if The Rock and Reigns are going to be that's going to be crazy. That's going to be crazy.
And remember, it was only a week ago that we were being rumored to get Gunther and a returning Brock Lesnar potentially at WrestleMania, which would also be a banger of a fight. If it's going to be Lesnar and Gunther, I'm going to sign up for that as well. Options are on the table, Mo. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens Saturday at the Royal Rumble. Obviously, Saturday is going to start to shape the road to WrestleMania and a lot of what is going to come out of the road to WrestleMania. And Mo, I mean, since we're talking about it, since we're talking about the road to WrestleMania and, since we're talking about the Royal Rumble, this is as good of a time as any to let our listeners know that the morning show is having a baby. All right. Hey, congratulations to us.
We're branching out.
That's right. The morning show is having a baby. It's called Coffee and Kayfabe. We're doing it with our boy Chase from Sports Empire Chase Network. And we are going to be coming on live after all of the WWE premium live events, starting with the Royal Rumble on Saturday. So following the WWE premium live events, make sure you tune in to Sports Empire Network, and you're going to see myself and Mo and Chase breaking down everything that we just witnessed.
It's gonna be a blast.
And that starts Saturday night when we break down the Royal Rumble. So make sure you are here for that. It is going to be a good time for all. I can guarantee you that. But right now, you know what also is a good time for all? JG coming on the show. JG coming on the show is a good time for all. So let's welcome JG to the show this morning. JG, how are you, sir?
Good morning.
Doing good. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing well.
JG, now that Jim Harbaugh has come to the NFL, let's talk about one of your favorite entities in all of the world of sports, that is the NCAA. What do you think the punishment is going to look like for Michigan now that Harbaugh has removed himself from that situation and he's essentially no longer taunting the governing body by being the head coach of that program? Obviously, there's going to be some sort of a punishment. Do you think it will be lighter with him not being there?
It depends on how much Michigan does cooperate with the NCAA regarding all the information, because that was the big issue. Is Harbaugh was not necessarily, I mean, to an extent, there was a lot of pushback from Harbaugh. Now, if the administration says, hey, NCAA, we will do whatever you need, whatever you want, to make a determination, you could see the NCAA, because Harbaugh has left and he was the one that was essentially listed as the main culprit of this cheating scandal. I could see a probation period for Michigan, maybe a loss of a few scholarships for a 2-year period, but nothing too serious, and maybe a financial fine on top of it, but nothing too serious with Harbaugh. Now, if Harbaugh would have stayed, if they would have gotten if he would have gotten the immunity, and which I know that was the big pushback that he wanted in his contract, was immunity from being fired if a guilty situation occurred with the NCAA, I think you probably would have gotten a whole lot more, because Michigan would then be enabling Harbaugh in the process. But now, because Harbaugh has left, I think, and if Michigan continues their cooperation and basically bends at the knee to the NCAA, I think you could see a lighter punishment. Like I said, a probation, maybe a handful of scholarship loss here and there, a financial fine, and nothing that's going to really set Michigan back too much.
Jumping to some Major League Baseball stuff, the New York Mets are clearly taking the stance of just trying to bring in former New York Yankee pitchers to get them through this season. They have already signed Luis Severino. Domingo Germán is now apparently on their radar, along with some other teams from the AL East. Apparently 6 teams are interested potentially in Germán's services. The Mets, the Blue Jays, and the Orioles have come out as teams that are linked to him. Obviously, Domingo has some other stuff, some off-the-field stuff that he is dealing with. That is a big reason why he is no longer a New York Yankee. That, of course, JG, with the fact that he was very up and down with the Yankees. And if you just look at this past season, yeah, there was a perfect game in there. There was also many games where he got absolutely shelled on a consistent basis. So what is the market? And I know I ask you this a lot, but what is a market for a guy that has some off the field issues, that has some consistency issues when everything is right off the field? We know where Snell's market is. He's not happy about it. What is the market for a guy like Domingo? 6 teams want him. That's good, right? That could be a little bit of a bidding war. But what does that look like number wise?
It's very moderate in this case for Domingo, because one, he has to prove that the issues of alcohol that he had, that what sent him to rehab, is in his past. And that's a difficult thing, and nothing to minimize. That is a difficult demon to get over, and something that it has to be accounted for by not just Domingo Germán, but the team that he does end up signing for. We've seen issues with players with substance abuse, and eventually something always sets them, not always, but something does set him back a little bit, and they got to make sure that he's healthy not only physically but mentally. So is how big of a market does Domingo Germán have? It's going to be a moderate market. It's nothing going to be breaking the bank. I don't think these teams that are listed are going to really overpay for his services because of what he has done in his track record over the last 3 years. It's been very pedestrian. You know, he went 4-5 in 2021 with a 4.58 ERA. 2022, a 2-5 record with a 3.61 ERA, and then last year a 5-7 record with a 4.56. Yes, he had the perfect game, and then not even a few weeks later, he was sent to rehab for alcoholism. So, what is the market for that? It's a bottom of the rotation guy. That's what he is. He's someone that you're going to just say, hey, come to spring training and earn a rotation spot. I don't see a team really throwing big money at him at this moment, just because, again, the numbers don't show he is capable of being even a middle rotation arm. It's been a long time. 2019 was the last year. He had a really good year, 18-4 record in 2019. That was a long time ago. So we haven't seen that side of him other than the one start in 2023, which, I'm sorry, that was against Oakland A's. All right, I could throw a perfect game against the Oakland A's, and I haven't pitched since I was 14 years old. So, but at the same time, you'll have teams that you have right now. There's a handful of teams that will take a chance, take a flyer at spring training invite, but nobody's going to break the bank for him.
Jordan Montgomery wants to be a Texas Ranger. The Texas Rangers have a need for pitching. I don't know why this deal hasn't gotten done yet, JG. But now we are finding out that another team could potentially be a fit for Jordan Montgomery, and that is the Boston Red Sox. And JG, to that, I say, well, that can't possibly be true, because if he goes to the Red Sox, that would be the Red Sox trying to make their team better, and they haven't really done that this offseason. So that move makes no sense to me, because one, that requires spending money, which apparently they don't want to do. And two, that requires making your pitching rotation better, which apparently they don't want to do. So I don't foresee him being a fit with the Boston Red Sox. But JG, I have to ask, why hasn't he signed with Texas yet? If the mutual interest is, does he just want too much money? What is the holdup?
Yeah, potentially. I think that's probably what it is. Texas is kind of handcuffed right now because they have a lot of money that's tied up with Max Scherzer, with Jacob deGrom, two guys who didn't pitch much for them in 2023 when they traded for Scherzer at the deadline. DeGrom got hurt halfway through the year. That's a lot of finance, a lot of money that's tied up to those two in the rotation. You have guys like Nathan Eovaldi, who's a decent amount of money you're putting there. So how much are you able to really invest in Jordan Montgomery? That's the big question right now for Texas. Yes, they won the World Series, but the revenue in 2023 doesn't necessarily kick in just yet. So that money, they can't earmark for them. And I don't know if Montgomery really wants to sit there and say, hey, I'll do some deferred money, kind of like a Shohei deal later on. He wants to get – a lot of these guys don't necessarily like those type of deals. They want to get paid now. And so I think that's kind of what Montgomery's looking at. He's trying to get a deal that's – again, as I said to you guys earlier this week, Blake Snell's the holdup for Montgomery right now because lefty pitcher. That's the market maker is Snell. Montgomery has to fall in line with that. But the moment right now with Snell not signed, that's holding up Montgomery. So if the Rangers have a number that they want to stick with and that's below what Montgomery's value that he thinks he is, there's a holdup. So at the same time, Rangers are kind of sitting back and seeing how healthy Clayton Kershaw is. That's another move that they're looking to see about. So there's options that Texas has, but Montgomery being one of the top targets for them, they're just making sure that the finances work for their budget compared to what is out there on the market value for Montgomery. And as I said, Snell holdup is what's slowing down Montgomery's ability to get signed. And the Red Sox are smart; they can swoop in. And from the article that I've read as well, there's some pessimism to that deal. There's interest, but again, it's one of those things you say, "Hey, yeah, we're interested." But it's probably not likely we will sign him. So you're teasing your fan base. But if Boston really wants to put themselves in a contention for wild card position in the American League, they need to go get Montgomery now. Swoop in while Rangers are sitting on their hands. That would be the smart thing to do, which Boston right now has not shown to be very smart in the front office in the last few years.
You mentioned Clayton Kershaw. Not much movement on him. But the Dodgers do go out and sign James Paxton. 1-year deal, $11 million. It's basically a prove it deal, which, hey, $11 million is a great number for me to come in for a year and just prove to you what I have. Another situation where you're seeing some of these lower tier pitchers, make decent 1-year money, which if you can make it, why not? Does the James Paxton signing have any correlation to them possibly re-signing Kershaw? Is Kershaw, you think, still a target for the Dodgers? Or is this them basically saying, we're kind of set now, pitching-wise, unless there's an injury kind of thing?
Yeah, the Paxton deal basically, all intent and purposes, allows the Dodgers to move on from Clayton. And I think that's I love Clayton. Clayton's a former high school teammate of mine. I have a lot of respect for him, and it kind of saddens me that he won't get the chance to finish his career in LA, because that was something that he was really wanting to do. He wanted the comparison of Sandy Koufax throughout his career, being in LA, and at this stage of his career, it's a little bit tough. And with the Paxton deal, and as you said, it's a prove it deal for Paxton. They have added a lot of pitching in their rotation this offseason. They still have the young kid, Bobby Miller, that had pitched in the rotation last year in 2023. He's going to get a chance, an opportunity to pitch in the rotation in the bottom. And you throw in Paxton as well to be a 4 or 5 rotation guy. It does essentially means that the Dodgers are going to move on from Kershaw, and they're not even going to. They more likely won't give him a chance to do so. And that opens the Rangers, which he's from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Kershaw is, so it's a homecoming if the Rangers go in that direction, which I think that would be a great idea. If they don't think the value is there for Montgomery, if they can't get closer to what they think that the budget they can handle for Montgomery, go get Kershaw and see what you can do with him and put him in that rotation with Eovaldi, potentially a healthy DeGrom. You'll have a healthy Scherzer. That it does elongate your rotation a little bit more. Yes, Montgomery is younger. Montgomery has a little bit less tread on the tires than what Kershaw does. But again, you want to sell tickets. You want to increase your revenue more in Texas. You go get the hometown kid in Clayton Kershaw, and you have number 22 jerseys throughout in the Rangers organization. My goodness, that's going to be huge for them. So, like I said, it's kind of a catch-22 that he is more likely going to be done in LA with the Paxton move. Am I excited about the Dodgers doing that, getting James Paxton? Like I said, it's a bottom of the rotation arm. It low risk, high reward type of thing if it works out. Which have we seen James Paxton pitch really well in recent years? Not really. But again, if you feel like you could figure something out for him, it just makes your rotation better. If not, you still have some young kids that have been developing from 2023 that you will basically just say, all right, we'll give you more opportunities, and James Paxton will kind of get pushed to the side as this year go on.
From the potential signing to opening day, the Kershaw move is fantastic. I'm just envisioning 2 months into the season, Scherzer's on the IR, Kershaw's on the IR, because these are literally end-of-the-road pitchers who are up there in age, and now 2 of your 5 starters in Texas are gone. Montgomery has signed elsewhere. JG, that would be a huge risk if you're going to try to get through an entire season and then a postseason run with those 2 guys being a big part of your rotation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a risk. And if you're the Rangers in that situation, if you go in that direction of Kershaw, it's a risk because now, as you said, you have 3 pitchers with injury history. And really, you could actually even say 4 with Eovaldi, who has had Tommy John. He's had some injury history in his past. You could say 4 pitchers in your rotation. Your top 4 pitchers have injury troubles throughout their career. But Kershaw still put up really good numbers in 2023. It's a matter of modifying how many innings he's going to get. Which, if you can have a healthy DeGrom, if you can have a healthy Scherzer, you can keep an eye on the innings count for him. And that's where getting the bullpen pieces, and they haven't really done so that much. They've lost more bullpen pieces in Texas than they have gained in Arlington. And that's where you kind of look at it and say, well, we need to do a little bit more with the bullpen to make sure to assure ourselves that we can keep an eye on DeGrom. We can keep an eye on Scherzer. If they go get Kershaw, we can keep an eye on Kershaw. It's a matter of making sure that you keep these older pitchers healthy throughout. That's also, if I can go in this direction too for Texas, you allow your young pitchers you have in the minors an opportunity to pitch in the big leagues. You have Jack Leiter, you have Owen Carter that is able to get opportunities to pitch. And they've given some of them last year an opportunity. But Jack Leiter, you got to figure out what to do with him if you're the Rangers. Is he a trade piece or is he going to be an arm in 2024? Now's the time. And so that's how you allow your rotation to be elongated throughout the year, is you mix and match some of your younger pitchers in the minors that are ready, or you need to figure out if they are ready. And by doing so, you give them innings in the big leagues. And it allows you to give DeGrom a start off. You allow Scherzer to get a start off here in the dog days of summer. You allow the young kids to pitch. And if they do that, you could see this rotation being pretty good throughout August and September into the second half of the season. If they don't, you're putting a lot of stress on older arms with injury history. And that's a problem if the Rangers go in that direction.
JG, always a pleasure to have you on here, sir. We'll see you next week, all right?
As always, guys, I appreciate it.
Have a good one, JG.
Yeah.
Mo, let's talk a little basketball, a little NBA, if you will. Emotional night in the Bay Area. The Golden State Warriors
for sure.
Had a very emotional game last night, a game that they were victorious in. It's going to be an emotional rest of the season for the Golden State Warriors after losing one of their coaches. It's just one of those things, Mo. I've personally never lived through that situation, but you have to imagine that there were plenty of relationships that were built on that team, and you are literally going to be looking at situations where you are in places that he was in just a few weeks ago, and you're going to have those constant reminders, and that's going to probably carry on with a lot of these guys throughout the rest of the season. I liked the comments that were made before and after the game last night. I thought that the coverage of the game was respectful while also acknowledging what was taking place and the emotions that were taking place. I liked that. Well, first of all, I liked that the NBA allowed them time. I liked that a couple of games were postponed. I liked that the NBA acknowledged that, this was a part of your family. Because I saw the comments, Mo. I saw people like, well, it's not like it was Steve Kerr. Can we be more insensitive? First of all, it's a human being. A human being is no longer with us. And it is a part of that organization. And when you are a part of an organization, you are a part of something. And if you are a good organization who values their people, it doesn't matter what you do there. You're still part of the family. And when you lose part of the family, it hurts across the board. So I'm glad that the NBA allowed them some time to heal a little bit and to kind of, readjust and refocus and get their minds right. And then it was, win or lose isn't changing anything in the grand scheme of things as far as what they're going through. But it was nice to see them get the win and to kind of be able to dedicate the game and all that stuff. And we'll see what happens from here. Some things are bigger than sports. Some things are bigger than basketball. And this is one of those situations, Mo. But my takeaway from watching that last night was it was done well. I didn't think it was tasteless by any means. I thought that everything was handled appropriately. And I think you could really see the impact that this coach and this human being had on this franchise with multiple players saying what they said and showing the emotions they showed in the Bay Area last night.
He had established himself as one of the better assistant coaches in all the NBA. He had relationships across the league. He'd had a long playing career overseas in the Euro leagues. He'd established himself internationally and beloved in the locker room. I know that primarily he worked with the bigs. So he had a really close relationship with Kevin Looney and guys like that. And I can understand the trauma that those guys experienced, because remember, for them, it wasn't waking up in the middle of the night and hearing terrible news. They were there firsthand as it was happening, and take it from somebody that's seen things of that nature. It takes a while. It takes a minute. You don't just shake that off. But I do think that the NBA family handled that very well. They handled this tragedy very well. And like you said, for some of the insensitive comments, remember, this is not just their coach. This is someone's husband. He left 2 kids. There was someone's father. Come on, man. Don't be like that. That's a human being that was lost. And that family, as well as we've tried to celebrate him, that family is still reeling from this loss.
Mo, the Milwaukee Bucks now are tied for the second best record in all of the NBA after their win. They are now 31-13. That puts them into a tie with teams like Oklahoma City and the Minnesota Timberwolves for the second best record in basketball, behind the Boston Celtics. Obviously, Doc Rivers news official. He is going to be the next head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. Mo, I think so. Obviously, I'm not a fan of how it all went down. I'm not a fan of you hiring a guy that you basically put into a box to not be successful. I think that's what happened. I'm not a fan of a guy taking a job where he knows he's being put in a box. And I don't care what you say. That conversation took place. There is no way that this team was all secretive about, the reason. Like, you had conversations, you've interviewed multiple times, you've gone through this process. You kind of get a vibe of why they're bringing you in. And I'm not going to knock him for taking the job. And I'm not going to knock him for the job that he did. He's the third best record in basketball when he got fired. So for me, like you said yesterday, Mo, there's a lot of dirty hands in this situation.
Yeah,
and there's
for sure.
lot of blame to go around. And now we bring in Doc Rivers. And Mo, here's my question to you. Because let's say they don't fire the coach. Is this a championship basketball team as it currently stands?
It's a contender. I don't think it's a title contender because I just think that they're very flawed. Once you get past the starting lineup, which includes Giannis, Damian Lillard, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, once you get past the starting lineup, there's not a lot of firepower. More importantly, the bigger picture, this is a slow, unathletic team. It's an old team. I think people don't, Giannis is not an old man. He's 29. And in most cases, he's literally just hitting into his prime, right? His peak. But Brook Lopez in his middle 30s, Chris Middleton, early 30s. And if you factor in all his multiple injuries, Chris Middleton, never mind what the ID card says, his body probably says he's closer to 40. So I don't think they're a title contender, no matter who the coach is, because I think their roster construction is flawed. They're old, and they need to make some moves to go out and get some young, athletic legs that can defend at a high level. Maybe at least get a guy that can defend at a high level at the point of attack. I know some people were complaining about Adrian Griffin's concepts because they said he wanted to play a pressing type defense, which doesn't bode well because of their lack of quickness, right? You can't push up on anybody if everybody can blow by you. I do understand that. But his concepts aren't bad. His mistake was he was trying to present a concept that didn't fit his player skill set. If I've got an old, slow team, what I'm not going to do is press you. That's just common sense. But look, what I would ask you, I want to ask you this, Chris. After this trade, they're bringing in Doc Rivers. if they don't win the title, because they're not built to contend. They either win the title or it's a bad season. If they don't win the title, is Giannis and Damian Lillard going to be teammates next year too? Or is one or both of them going to be salty again and want another coaching change, right? Because it's not like when they got rid of Bud, the first guy they called was Doc Rivers, because that's not what happened. When they got rid of Bud, Giannis pushed for Adrian Griffin, loved him as an assistant coach, pushed him to be the man. And I think what Giannis found out is Adrian Griffin was actually going to try to coach him, and I'm not sure he liked that so much. And look, I know we touched on the reports a little bit yesterday about how Giannis and Dame didn't really connect well with Adrian Griffin, and Giannis didn't like the way that Adrian Griffin kind of went after his brother, Thanos, basically implying he didn't belong in the NBA. And if he did do that, look, all I can say is, dude, if your franchise player's brother is on the bench, whether he's worthy of being on the bench or not, if you want to keep your job, what you don't do is belittle him in front of the franchise player.
I find it interesting, Mo. Giannis came out yesterday and said that he was surprised by the move. BS.
Right.
I feel like Giannis was part of the move. I feel like Giannis was part of the catalyst that got the ownership group to be at practice, watching how things were going and the sorts.
How often did that happen?
Right? So don't sit here and tell me you're surprised that it happened, Giannis. But I get it. You don't want the LeBron reputation, which is, you're a great coach for LeBron until LeBron decides you're not a great coach. At which point you move on. You're worthy as long as LeBron thinks you're worthy. And then when LeBron is done with you, it's time for a new coach. So I get it. Giannis doesn't want that because this is his third coach, in less than 2 seasons, Mo. So he definitely doesn't want that label as a player. But my thing is this, Doc, I don't think they're going to win a title this year. I don't. And I think that the fan base is going to blame Doc Rivers, and I think it's not going to be justified. I don't think you were a 1, 2, or top 3 championship favorite before you fired your coach. And bringing in Doc Rivers, sure, I think you'll be marginally better on defense because I don't think you can get any worse. And I think Doc is going to at least run a system on defense that better fits the personnel that you have. So sure, I think your defense will improve a little bit. But for all the reasons you listed, Mo, I don't think you're a championship team. And that has nothing to do with Doc Rivers. And it has everything to do with the players who are currently comprised on this team. Now, obviously, if they make a bunch of moves at the trade deadline and they bring in some new blood and they bring in some athletic people and the vibe and the culture changes a little bit as far as what their play looks like on the court, could be a different conversation. But what I see happening is them making the playoffs, it being a disappointing finish, and then the majority of Milwaukee fans saying, well, when you bring Doc Rivers in, this is what you get. And I don't think that's fair. At least not season fair. 1. Now, maybe season 2 and 3, different conversation. But season 1, unless this team folds and completely collapses, this isn't going to be a Doc Rivers issue.
Right. And remember, you're 43 games already into this season, right? So this isn't a Doc Rivers team. He's inheriting Adrian Griffith / Coach Bud's team. And like you said, they're going to come, if they come up short, and look, I'm not rooting against them, but I think they will. The fan base is going to go, well, Doc came in here and just ruined everything, right? Like, wait a minute. The fan base was excited when they moved on from Coach Bud, who, by the way, he only helped you win the first title since way back in 1970, I think. And you were always relevant under Coach Bud, right? You were a legit title contender. So you move on from him and bring in a rookie coach. My only problem is, whatever the interpersonal relationships were in that locker room, a rookie coach had you 30-13. I would say that most franchises would kill to have a rookie coach start off 30-13. And even with Dame and Giannis, 30-13 isn't bad. They're right there at the top of the East. And they won last night, so now they're at the top of the East. But you're one of two teams in the current NBA that has two top 10 players. You're supposed to be pretty damn good anyway, even with your flaws. Bringing in Doc Rivers, I feel like the expectations go through the roof, and my mindset is they shouldn't. They shouldn't go through the roof. Doc is inheriting the same exact team, and Chris, if they don't make any roster moves, they're gonna be the same old slow team. And the thing is, what teams are doing with them is they're playing with pace. They're playing fast, and Milwaukee tries to match that because their franchise player, one of his strengths is playing in the open court. So if you walk it up, you actually hamper what Giannis, one of the things he does best. So they have to play fast. The problem is they're not good at it as a team. So yes, they're going to come in, they're going to cheer Doc, there'll be a honeymoon period, and then they're going to be wondering why they ever hired him.
Well, let's ask the bigger question. Let's ask maybe the most important question. How do we think Austin Rivers is going to vibe with this team? What kind of impact is Austin going to have on the Milwaukee Bucks?
Probably as much as Stannis does.
Will they at least sit next to each other on the bench?
I mean, I expect they'll have deep, penetrating conversations. Because when you're at the end of the bench, you're not getting a lot of playing time. Not when it matters. Now, when they're blowing somebody out or getting blown out, it's Stannis time. Look, let me say this. I'm joking. With respect, if you're good enough to be in the NBA, whether you're a role player or the last man on the bench or whatever, you're pretty special. All jokes aside, you're pretty special because there's only 400 guys in the entire league right now. So you're pretty special no matter what your role is. So yes, we joke a little bit. But on a serious note, I feel like Doc Rivers said yes so quick that I don't even think Doc realizes the kind of pressure he just put on himself.
Well, and he probably hasn't even told Austin to get ready. Like, he probably didn't have that conversation.
Right.
Like, is Austin ready for this? Did he discuss it with him first?
Right.
Like, come on.
Right. And don't forget, Austin was just started being part of the NBA countdown team, and now he's going to go hang out with Dad again. Like, I don't know, man. You might want to stay in the studio.
Mo, don't look now, but the hottest team in the NBA is those Phoenix Suns. With the GOAT, Kevin Durant, on that team. Phoenix has won 7 straight games, Mo. That's the longest winning streak currently in the NBA, just ahead of the 6 straight that the Philadelphia 76ers have won. Over that stretch, the Suns, 8 of their last 10. They have jumped up to 5th in the Western Conference. They are 3 games behind the Clippers, and they are 4.5 games essentially out of the clumping of the top 3 teams with the Thunder, the Timberwolves, and the Nuggets. Mo, the surge that we are seeing from Phoenix, is this just one of those things? This up and down roller coaster season. You're going to have your wins clump together. You're going to have some losses clump together. Or has Phoenix started to turn the corner and we are going to continue to see this team rise over the next couple of weeks? And a month or so from now, we're going to be having the conversation of Phoenix is in the same conversation as those other top 2 or 3 teams in the West record-wise. And now they're putting themselves in the conversation for a top seed heading into the playoffs.
So I think that Phoenix, let's start with the obvious. Barring injuries, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be in the playoffs. Yeah. But are they up there with OKC? Are they up there with the T-Wolves, the Nuggets, the defending champs? No, they're not. Because what Oklahoma City can do, what the T-Wolves can do, and when they lock in, the Nuggets can do is they can all defend and get stops. Phoenix can't stop anybody. What they rely on you is for you to have a bad shooting night or not have a scoring big. If they play against any team that has a big that can score, there's nothing they can do at all. They're small. They're not good at controlling their own defensive glass. I think that when you have a Bill along with Booker and Durant, you have talented ISO players who are going to have monster games from time to time. Booker just had 46, I think, last night in the win versus the Mavs, and so they can be explosive. And I think going into the playoffs, a team like that, you say, has a puncher's chance. But barring a major injury, do I think Phoenix can beat Oklahoma City, who's a much younger, unproven team? Like the old man in Oklahoma City is SGA, and he's 25. He's the old man. And yet, if they played Phoenix in a series, I think that's a short series. I think OKC beats them in a short series. I don't think OKC can, or not OKC, but I don't think Phoenix could beat the Wolves. I know they can't beat the defending champion Nuggets. So I think they're entertaining and they're fun to watch. They're not a threat to come out the West.
Well, we found out a couple of days ago, but it was confirmed yesterday. Draymond Green not going to be a part of Team USA. Grant Hill, who had the final say in putting together the player pool for Team USA. Green wanted to play. He was originally on the potential list of people who were going to be in the pool, but his recent suspension from the NBA is the reason why he was not put into the pool of 40-plus players from which Team USA is going to be selected. I don't know if Draymond Green has commented on this. I don't believe he has, Mo. But you look at this, and this is there hasn't been many of these outside of the suspension, but this is kind of a big consequence for Draymond for his actions from earlier this season, because he may downplay it now. And I don't know what he's going to say or not say about it, but we know for a fact he wanted to be a part of this.
Oh, for sure.
And now he is not going to be a part of it in any capacity.
I'm a big Grant Hill fan. Followed him all his career. I think he's one of those guys that's a stand-up guy. I think Grant Hill looked at this as he looked at Draymond's history and thought, I really thought that I don't want that on Team USA. I don't want that. I don't want the potential for that, because now remember, this is going to be international play, right? So I think that Grant Hill said that, do we need Draymond Green? Is he going to make or break whether Team USA is the best team and takes home the gold? He's not. I think it meant more to Draymond than it meant to Team USA. Because if you're part of Team USA and you win the gold, it helps bolster up your brand, right? It does matter. Draymond has a podcast. I'm sure it would have added more to his podcast as well. So I understand why he's upset as a competitor, but he kind of put himself in this situation. It's not Grant Hill's fault. I think Grant Hill made the right decision.
Kyle brings up a good point. We don't need Draymond triggering any foreign disputes.
Exactly.
during
Kyle,
you
read my
Olympics.
mind. Kyle, you 100% read my mind. Exactly. And I think that's exactly what Grant Hill was thinking. Like, let's avoid any kind of weird international altercation.
Last thing we need is Draymond taking down France's favorite basketball player in Paris, where the Olympics are being held, and there being a riot on our hands. Mo, great show on a Thursday. Close us out, sir.
Hey, everybody in the chat, we appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Check out all the great content that we have at Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
Make sure you're back here, same time, same place tomorrow morning. We are going to break down our picks for the conference championship games. Who do we think is going to the Super Bowl? All of that and more right here tomorrow morning. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Sports Empire Network, and we will see you in the morning.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about the team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any